Pleasant Productions presents the math of ESP, why it works, even if you don't believe in it. We are discussing the issue of time travel, and just for the fun of it, going to kind of pick on an issue here. There is a difference between a spirit and a ghost. A spirit is a conscious entity. A ghost is a reoccurring memory, much the same way as you would put a recording on your answering machine for a telephone. Okay? They always do the same thing. They always play out the same routines. They spin through this cycle. They might have more than one little thing they do. But if you hear clanking chains, you're going to hear clanking chains as in most all consistent situations. Yes, I have met quite a few ghosts. So I do know what I'm talking about. They are not a conscious entity in that sense. There is a consciousness connected to it, okay? But the actualities of what they are is, in most cases, the entity died a horrible death, or several in the case of Roman soldiers marching down a road or something like that, or battle cries from the Civil War or something like that. But this extremely intense energy of something leaves a ghost behind. Okay? The ghost cannot hurt you. It is not there to hurt you. It is there to tell its story. Every time I've been someplace where a ghost exists, only one case I didn't have the ghost actually come and meet me, so to speak, but it kept, I guess, in a joking sense, tapping me on the shoulder because I had to sleep in the building, and it was known there was a ghost there, and I kept waking up every few minutes. Basically, I would fall asleep and I'd come back awake, and I'd think I heard somebody somewhere, and it'd stop it, and I'd sense out, no, it's just the ghost. Okay, fine. And I would, try and go back to sleep, and, in a few minutes fall back asleep, and no big deal. But 5 minutes, 10, 20, 30 minutes later, I'd wake up again, which, considering I only had a couple of hours between the time I finished installing computers and the time I had to actually start teaching people how to use them, it was pretty annoying to not be able to get at least a few hours of consistent rest there. But people get all afraid of ghosts, and technically you are psychosomatically injuring yourself because you are creating the energy vehicle which any injuries come from. Okay? Ghostbusters getting slimed, I mean, that would probably be about the maximum of it. Many years ago there was a movie called Entity on TV, and it was about a real live something, okay? That wasn't a ghost, folks. That was an entity. And somewhere, somehow, something, the woman was the victim of abuse. She and the entity didn't get along, okay? And there was this whole entire thing going on. How real the overall of it is, I don't know. I do know that it came from a factual story. I did follow up some of it on it and study it a little bit, but I didn't ever bother to really study the woman. I was more interested in what the entity in and around and what factual basis they had versus what glorification went on in the movie. And movies always glorify things because it's a lot better. It's like the idea of seeing a battle in space. 99.99999% of it just can't happen, okay? Star Wars, TIE Fighter, doing this, okay? There's no friction in space, folks. How the heck is it supposed to turn if there's no wind, which makes wings work? Yeah. Recently on Quora, a couple of us answered a question about that and made the statement that, yeah, there would be a ball of fire if two starships collided, but it would be over so fast that it would be like a flashbulb. There's no oxygen, so it would not continue to burn for any length of time. It would not do all that kind of stuff. That simply wouldn't exist. They would be hitting at such tremendous speeds that it would be about a millisecond, maybe 5 milliseconds of impact, moving at thousands of miles per second in most cases, and just splatter each other. Any oxygen inside would rupture and create a fireball, which would be the flash, but it would be over very, very quickly. Any oxygen containers and things like that would not be in heat long enough to explode, to add to any fire or anything like that. There wouldn't be a gasoline and combustibles like that on a starship, really. So, but that's movies for you, and that's part of what goes on. And this is part of the imaging you people see and you believe in. That's like I say, stop and think about it, folks. Devil is the word live backwards, okay? Now, Satan, I haven't found anything else to connect to. There is a variety of different words and stuff, and I probably, if I sat down with some linguists from some ancient languages, I could probably find the Satan root that they come with, which I'm picking up is probably out of the Hindu realm of stuff. But the Bible borrowed from all over, because the Bible was written from 300 AD to 600 AD. Now, we're talking about a time period where there wasn't any plastics to wrap stuff in. There wasn't any oxygen-free tanks and containers to put stuff in. There wasn't any dry packs to keep stuff in. So any letters that were sent from apostle to apostle, apostle to churches and stuff like that, in 300 years would most likely be lost, most likely disintegrated, and most likely non-existent, okay? But the Romans, who had been in power for almost 1,000 years at that point in time, is a really powerful group, were very adept at borrowing from everybody else, everywhere else, and setting things up and in motion so that what they're going to do is in league with where they're going, okay? If you take the Jews, Christians, Catholics, and Muslims all basically become solidified churches in that 300 to 600 AD. Yes, the Jews were around beforehand, and they were a rather small group. There is no historical record of a third of Egypt's population to a half of Egypt's population getting up and walking out of the country. And that is what you would have if you had all the slaves of Egypt pick up their gear, all of the peasants pick up their gear and walk out of town. Keep that in mind. You got one king, one queen, a princess or princess, you know, prince and princesses or two, but you gotta have a couple of thousand serfs to serve them. Okay? The farms, the ranches, the factories, whatever they might be. The building of the pyramid was not made by the kings. It was made by the serfs and the slaves and the laborers and all that. So if those people picked up their tools and walked out of town, believe me, there would be an extremely large amount of data behind that this happened. Okay? You're talking about an entire financial collapse overnight. Okay? That doesn't exist anywhere. So there was no Jewish mass exodus. It just simply doesn't have any factual backing to it. So what else is there? Well, how about the idea that all of the apostles of Jesus Christ just happen to have Northern European names? They don't have Arab names. They have European names. Okay? So the imagery is there that we're going to blame what lived before us. We're going to call it the devil. We're going to tell you there's Satan's come down from the heavens and he's a god walking on the planet and he's making everybody do horrible things. And if you don't worship our cross and pay tithing to us, we're going to kill you. Just to make certain that the devil doesn't get you. Yeah. Spanish Inquisition, the witch trials in New England, witch trials all across the world, everywhere you go. You don't pay tithing to the Christians and the Catholics and the Muslims, you get killed. Pretty darn quick. They don't like the fact that you don't put money in their pockets, okay? So they put forth the idea that ghosts are bad. Talking to saints are bad. Always let the priests talk to the saints. You don't want to stand in front of Christ because that's a really horrible thing. Let one of us powerful priests stand there. Is a priest anything more than a human being? Was the priest anything more than a baby born exactly the same way you were? Okay? So, yeah. The whole idea and logic behind that stuff is a misconception. And just like time travel, you just, bing, hey, we're in the back, all the way back to the 1800s, no problem. It's good for movies. It cannot happen in reality because you don't have the exact moment and the exact place in the universe to be there again. You have the energy and you have moved it over here and you have duplicated or created a clone of it. Okay? Yeah.